I am Trey Talks Ball, and this is Hot Takes 2. Starting it off is Colin Weaver, who says that 3 Big Ten teams will make the Final Four of the college football playoffs. And though it would be super exciting to see this happen, I'm going to have to disagree. And the reason why I disagree is because I do think that only 2 Big Ten teams are going to make the college football playoffs this year. This year, I think that the Big Ten is going to turn out a lot like the Pac-12 did last year in terms of cannibalism. You can see a scenario where Oregon beats Ohio State, Michigan beats Oregon, and Ohio State beats Michigan. And then the very next week in the Big Ten championship game, Ohio State could beat Oregon or Michigan, or either of them could beat Ohio State. Either of them can beat Oregon. So I think ultimately, at least this first year of this 12-team format, until like all the kinks get kind of figured out, I do think that the Big Ten will only have 2 representatives in this 12-team playoff. Next up, Capital Buckeye said that Ollie Gordon wins the Heisman. And this is a scorching hot take just because the fact that we haven't seen a non-quarterback win the Heisman Award since Devontae Smith in that 2020 season. And I don't think that we've seen a running back win the Heisman since, I believe, Derrick Henry, which was the 2016 season, 2015 season actually. But I do think that if there's any player who can win it out of that non-quarterback position in any year where a team can literally play about 16, maybe 15 or 16 games, it could be Ollie Gordon. So I'm going to have to disagree with that hot take, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happened. Kay Elder says that Nebraska takes a huge leap and loses less than 3 games this season. And I have to go and look at Nebraska's schedule, but I don't think that's like a super hot take. I know they play Ohio State, so that's an L right there. They play Colorado, and we really don't know how this Colorado team is looking, but that could be a W right there. They have a quarterback who's fresh out of high school, was one of the highest rated recruits at his position in the country last year. Let's see how he's going to play out as a true freshman, but I really want to see what those receivers are going to look like. So for right now, I'm going to disagree. I think a very successful season for Nebraska could be 7-5 to 8-4. Right now, if I had to say, I would say they could win about 7 games. Louis B. Ballin says that Jeremiah Smith will finish in the top 3 in Heisman votes, but Bo Nix will win it. I find it really hard to believe that Bo Nix will win the Heisman Award while playing for the Denver Broncos. But Louis B. Ballin also said that Clemson bounces back and faces UNC in the ACC title game. And though I do agree with that first part, I don't fully believe in that second part in UNC being in the ACC championship. I do believe that spot belongs to Florida State. They reloaded with a brand new quarterback in DJU, and I think Mike Norvell will have that squad ready to play this season. College Football Capital says that Michigan will go 7-5 next season, and as much as I want to agree with that as an Ohio State fan, I disagree. Looking at their schedule, I believe that there are 4 losses at most for this team. I think that the first loss could be against Texas. They could lose against Texas. I think that's week 1 or week 2 of the season. I can honestly see them losing against Oregon, but they do play at home. It depends on how that boy Alex Orji's looking by that time in the season. I do believe that they're going to lose against Ohio State in the game. And maybe they can slip up some 4th game, but I don't even really see them losing 4. I can see them losing 3 games, going 9-3, and maybe sneaking into the 12-team college football playoff. As much as I dislike Michigan as a fan, as an unbiased viewer of college football, I still think they're going to have a top 10 defense with Will Johnson at quarterback 1, and they also have probably the best defensive interior in the country in Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. Jake Hodges says, remember, Ohio State has Ryan Day. That's why they can't win. And I completely disagree with any takes like this. I think that is one of the most laziest pieces of analysis that someone can give, because if you look at it with that perspective, like, oh, just because a coach hasn't won the big games, that means they can't win. You wouldn't have had Jim Harbaugh in Michigan win the national championship last season. And at this point, most of the head coaches in college football that's still coaching, most of them haven't won a national championship. Saban just left. Jim Harbaugh just won one and he just left. Coach O, he's not coaching. He's not a head coach right now. So I feel like besides Kirby Smart, most of these coaches are going to be looking to win their first national championship. Nolan's Prods said that LSU improves this year and goes 11-2. Man, that is that's a spicy take, especially with Oklahoma and Texas joining joining the SEC. I got to have more of a deep dive into that schedule, but I think it could be low-key realistic. We don't know what Alabama will be this year. Ole Miss they're predicted to be very good, but we got to see how they look without Quinshon Judkins at running back. You look at other teams like Texas, who are pretty much primed and ready to go. I'm not sure if they play LSU in the regular season, but if they do, I would lean towards Texas in that scenario. I'm not sure if they play Georgia in the regular season. With Georgia, they're either going to have to play them in the regular season, or they're going to have to run into them in the SEC championship game, them or Texas. That could be a tough matchup for LSU. But 11-2, I might say maybe 10-3, but that could happen. And finally, Alex Albright says that Ohio State struggles with pressure early in the season. They come into the playoffs around number 6, and they win the national championship. I do think that they will win a national championship. I feel like their struggle moment kind of comes in the middle of the season, maybe potentially against Oregon on the road. I don't know about early in the season because they start off their season against Akron and Marshall and I think Western Michigan or something. So I don't think their struggle will come early in the season, but they will be tested around the middle of the season against teams like Penn State, Oregon, teams like that. That's it for your boy today. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and your comment may be in Hot Takes Part 3 next week. And make sure you subscribe if you're new. And as always, make sure to always get 1% better every single day. Peace.